Valve went crazy in 2024, releasing a lot of new content, so let's go over a few big updates from this year. It started with the Call to Arms update for CS2. It added the arms race mode and the new kilowatt case with the kukri knife. Less than a few days later, Valve also released the Dragon's Gift for Dota 2, where they revealed an update coming soon called Crownfall. This wasn't it, as they also mentioned a ban wave was about to start as they worked on a new cheat detection code. So, out of only 10 million tracked accounts on Convars, over 20,000 players received a vac ban. Just a few weeks later, once March started, Valve came out with a Dota 2 update, which added the Spring 2024 seasonal treasure, and also introduced the Dota Labs, a new way to experiment with future features. Talking about future features, in March, Valve also announced Steam Families and added it into the Steam beta that would replace both Steam Family Sharing and Steam Family View. Steam Families gives you access to family sharing, parental controls, and purchase requests all in one easy to manage place. Right around this time, the first ever Counter-Strike 2 Major was starting up. Valve was forced to delay the stickers for almost an entire week because some players were using fonts and not making handmade signatures themselves. But when the actual game started taking place, a protest broke out at the event between two gambling sites. As the event continued, Navi beat FaZe to win the first ever CS2 Major. Right around this exact time though, cheating was starting to peak in CS2. The cheaters were blatantly rage hacking and VAC would barely do anything. Players were being vocal and were complaining to Valve about this issue. But it wasn't until members of the Talking Counter podcast asked Valve employees at the Copenhagen Major about the cheating and VAC problem.
Not because they can't go deeper than that because it's anti-cheat and it's extremely secretive, but the anti-cheat is obviously a very high priority for them.
But it was the start of all the VAC changes that were about to come. Just days after the Copenhagen Major, Valve responded to the protest by making it so new Counter-Strike 2 items are not visible in players' inventories for 10 days. But during all this, Valve was cooking up a pretty big update for Dota 2, called Crownfall, which was a new way to tell stories, offer rewards, and just make Dota more fun. This was only Act 1 and came with a bunch of new content for the game. One thing in particular was the comics, like Ascension Day, but it also released new arcanas and treasures, while revealing that a lot more was coming soon. Midway through April, Valve released an update for TF2, which added 64-bit support for Windows or Linux, which wasn't it for April and Valve, as just a few days later, they also released a huge update for CS2 called On the Other Hand. It came with a few small improvements like using your left hand, but the main change was adding back Dust 2 and removing Overpass from the map pool. But this update also added Overwatch in CS2, but it was only for trusted partners that are trained to review matches and find cheaters, where only a few days later at the end of April and going into May, rage cheaters started getting hit by VAC. But these were now coming with irregular gameplay cooldowns. Cheating continued to be a big issue throughout May, but Valve was at least starting to detect the obvious spin botters. The thing is, Valve wasn't just addressing cheaters, as this also came with a large-scale ban wave to CS2 bot farmers. CS2 also got another big update in May, which brought renting for the first time ever. That same month for Dota 2, Valve released Crownfall Act 2, but something else was heating up for a different Valve game. In May, Deadlock had a bunch of gameplay leaked to the public, letting us look at Valve's new third-person MOBA shooter. Interested players started to get access, but it wasn't until a few months later where Deadlock started to get more popular. The game only had a few hundred to over 1,000 players, so constant big updates happened almost every single day. As well though, around this time, things started heating up for TF2, with the fixed TF2 movement as players tried to draw attention to the large-scale bot problems. Some dedicated fans were even showing up to the Valve office, which went right into June, where Valve started banning accounts that were involved in quote-unquote majorly disruptive behavior for TF2. So Valve was finally addressing the bot problem in the game by handing out all these game bans, clearing it up for legit players. But this wasn't it though, as June was also Counter-Strike's 25th anniversary, which came with a small tweet and an update that introduced 5 community maps. June was also when Valve announced their new feature, Steam Game Recording, to let you record your games, clip your favorite moments, and share them with your friends instead of using some other third-party program. Valve wasn't finished there with TF2, as in July, Valve came out with Summer 2024, with 10 community maps, the summer 2024 case, and much more that would last for a few months. But arguably the biggest news for TF2 in July is the fact that Valve writers confirmed that they finished writing Comic 7 and it was in the process of being drawn, giving us sneak peeks at what is to come. Another update Valve released in July was for CS2 changing around Dust 2 by letting players easily climb to shore. Valve also released Crownfall Act 3 with the Collector's Cache and also the new intro comic The Dragon, and ended July by releasing another large Dota 2 update to balance some heroes. August though really shook things up, as right at the start of the month, players noticed a voice actress had a to-be-announced Valve game called Project White Sands on their resume, indicating that Valve has been working on voice recordings for the next installment of the Half-Life series. At the same time, a lot of HLX and Half-Life related files were being spotted in various Source 2 updates. As well, in August, a new Half-Life 2 branch with the name Test popped up, indicating that Valve was working on a new update for Half-Life 2. August was also a pretty big month for Deadlock, as it started with Valve releasing the new hero Viscus, and a few weeks later they also released Shiv. But the biggest change was to the Deadlock invite system, as now players could easily invite their Steam friends, which made the player base jump from 2,000 to over 40,000 in 2 weeks. Valve then decided it was a good time to let players publicly talk about the game and pushed out a new Steam page, increasing the popularity and player count even more. Throughout August, Valve released a few TF2 updates. One of the changes was increasing the backpack limit to 4,000. Valve also released the 2024 compendium for the International and a new hero, the Ringmaster, which also came with a comic going over his backstory for Dota 2. As well, in August, Valve had to address the new input automation features that were being popularized in new keyboards like SnapTap, and came out with a CS2 blog called Sidestepping, announcing that they were no longer going to allow it for Counter-Strike 2. But on this exact same day, Valve announced something else, vacnet 3.0, letting us know that initial testing has started in select matches, as August did come with an increase to the overall ban numbers, indicating that Valve's new anti-cheat system was working. Things kept looking up for vacnet 3.0 going into September, where at the start of the month, Hopu Games and most of their employees announced that they would now be working directly on game development at Valve, canceling their unannounced game. But this wasn't it for Valve hires, as throughout summer and fall, Valve was hiring a bunch of new employees, not just the Hopu team, which includes physics engine developers, animators, sound designers, level designers, and many other positions, all within a short few months. September also had the International for Dota 2, which crowned Liquid as the champion, and for Deadlock, they released the new hero Mirage, which also came with an updated anti-cheat system that could turn cheaters into frogs. Valve also pushed Steam Families out of beta, letting all users use the feature. October though was an interesting month. They released the Armory for CS2, a new store, and way to earn cosmetics in Counter-Strike. This of course meant people would do whatever they could to get the most cosmetics, which led to some players abusing XP exploits. However, due to the exploits needing specific servers that players would need to get invited to, the main people using it were high-up names like YouTubers and streamers, thinking that Valve wouldn't take action on their accounts.
Fingers crossed I don't get banned because I was just invited to a lobby. And even Valve themselves said there's no wrong way to play.
And then they can't ban us all, right?
Valve gave all the people who were farming Armory stars a 1-year trade ban restriction. As well though, in October, a Valve dev confirmed they are working on a new system for animations, but of course would be a large project. This then got followed up with new files for Deadlock and CS2, indicating that they are updating AnimGraph, which was first introduced for Half-Life Alyx, to AnimGraph 2. October brought Rank to Deadlock, which Valve would continue to iterate on in future updates, and also introduced Hero Labs, which let players experiment with 6 new heroes. Valve attended PAX Australia to release the Steam Deck to that region. This came with Gabe giving us a countdown that missed out on 3, and also a presentation by an ex-Valve dev, Josh Weir. In October, they of course released Scream Fortress for TF2, which came with the terrifying Trove case and other content for the game. One of the more notable changes for TF2 in that month is that they updated Scout's pants that were using the incorrect color, but then reverted the change one day later because it conflicted with too many cosmetics. November though was a huge month for Valve. They released the Rainy Train for CS2, which also changed the community maps and finally let players rent skins from any case they want, a feature Valve introduced a few months prior. They also pushed the Steam game recording feature out of beta, but Valve had more planned for November. They celebrated Left 4 Dead 2's 15th anniversary by putting the game on sale for free, letting players earn the Good Guy Nick achievement. They also released the final act for Crownfall alongside the new hero Kez, while also releasing a limited edition white Steam Deck. But their biggest release for November was the Half-Life 2 20th anniversary update. It came with a blockbuster 2-hour Valve documentary giving us behind-the-scenes details on the game, a 3-hour dev commentary mode, and many other wanted updates to this 20-year-old game, like combining it with the Half-Life 2 episodes and adding the workshop for easy mod access. Valve even made it free for anyone who didn't have it yet, which broke the known SteamDB player count that tracks back to 2008. Right at the end of the month, Valve accidentally shared looks at their new Roy controllers for the Deckard, and also the Steam controller too. For December, Valve finished 2024 strong, coming out with a bunch of holiday and winter themed updates for their games. Dota 2 got Frostivus, where Valve announced over 65,000 bans. For Deadlock, they released Raven into the Hero Labs and gave it a winter themed makeover. TF2 got Smithsmiths, which came with community maps, the winter 2024 case, and a few days later, Valve finally finished the story by releasing Comic 7, which was previously teased a few months earlier. December had the Shanghai Major for CS2, crowning Team Spirit as the champion, but Valve also updated their Steam brand guidelines, which included a few interesting things, but one mainly was for SteamOS, which let device manufacturers use Valve's operating system, indicating that a third-party device using SteamOS was close, and it only took a few weeks later for a new handheld running SteamOS to get leaked. This wasn't it for December, as players also figured out that Valve was working on some new hardware with the codename Fremont, all pointing to a new Steam machine type console that would also use Valve's operating system. We will have a strong year in 2025 for Valve news, as this was only a drop in the bucket for everything that happened this year. Deadlock had over 405 known updates. CS2 had 111 updates, the most since CSGO's release. TF2 had 25 updates, which isn't many, but is huge when you take into account the bots being banned and the final release of Comic 7. Plus, for Dota 2, Valve released 250 updates, so it's clear Valve was busy this year, as this doesn't even include all the strings and files related to Valve's next Half-Life title, HLX. Make sure you subscribe to not miss what Valve has next for 2025, and let me know what was your favorite update by Valve this year.